Well, it is that time again, everybody. Hope you are doing well. My name is Bird Dog John, and I am back in action.
In those scenarios, it's good to neuralize the cameras. You guys know that best.
Very straightforward. Plug it in, go to the web UI, link the source, walk away. You know, like super simple. I keep looking over at the chat, and I keep seeing you are full of it. Tasty, spicy meat snacks. Covered in flavor. I mean, you can't go wrong. So what's going on? We've got a handful of folks here in the chat, and I really appreciate that. What's up, mate? Hey, Warren, how are you? Appreciate it. Hey, Robbie, how's it going, man? We were just talking about you. What's going on, Tom? Ahoy. How is it going? What's going on, Go Web? Good to see you again. Thanks for hanging out with us again today. Appreciate that. Feel like I'm in this video more than anyone but John. It's true, NetApp. You are, I'm going to cut this up and put this in the next intro. The stream is indeed starting. Let's giddy up and get on with it, folks. Hopefully you're doing well. Hey, I am Bird Dog John. Hopefully you are having a great start or end, or I don't know. What are we calling this? But what I do need to do is check the audio. So that sounds pretty good. All good. Hopefully you're doing well. It has been a busy, busy morning, mostly because we were off yesterday. The office was closed for Memorial Day. And so for those of you in the United States, happy Memorial Day. Hopefully you had some time to kind of relax momentarily. And if you didn't get to, well, I'm really sorry about that. But hey, we had a good day off. We had some friends over to the house, and that was a change of pace because we're introverts, and so that doesn't happen normally. So we definitely spent some time hanging out with friends and just having a great kind of day off without working. So I legitimately did not work, and I did some stuff around the house, actually. So my lawnmower broke again this weekend, so I had to spend some time fixing that, and it's not actually fixed yet. But I'm going to have to do either an overhaul on it. Actually, I'm going to have to do an overhaul on it regardless because something's wrong. Even if I want to sell it and buy something else, I'm going to need to have it working in order to sell it, right? So there you go. So yeah, that was my weekend. Busy doing yard work. Still didn't get everything done, which doesn't surprise anybody because you don't get everything off of the list, right? But that means I got to do some stuff this afternoon or this evening, and then in the evenings of this week in order to kind of catch up with all that stuff that we didn't get done. So there you go. Onward and upward, I hope. Hopefully that's how you feel. What's going on, Randy? Thanks for checking in from Winnipeg. Pretty cool, fellow Canadian. And hopefully you're doing well. Hi from Stockholm, Sweden. What's going on? Thank you for always being there on the show. You're very consistent with your attendance here on the Bird Dog Show. Hey, what's going on, Angus? Another Canadian. Just popped in to say hi. I'm on a 2-day hybrid conference using P200s in the main room. Good times. Excellent. Let me know how that goes. And if you have any footage after the fact, post it online, and we can watch some of your handiwork in a future show. So, what's going on, Brighton? I said, F it to the Toro place out here. I'm a bring. There's a Toro place out here. I'm going to bring it to there. So you were having issues with the mower this weekend, were you, Balu? That I probably should take mine to the John Deere dealership and have them check it out. It's probably a, 15-year-old, 20-year-old machine. It works great. It cuts really well. I need to sharpen the blades on the deck, but other than that, it works pretty well. My issue is I have so much lawn to cut, and the deck is only 48 inches, so I need to probably find something a little bit bigger that will work a little better and quicker, even if it's the same speed. So I'm running at like 4 miles an hour, which is typical for a John Deere like ride-on tractor. But man, cutting almost an acre worth of grass is a doozy. So the whole job takes about 2 hours. So I just need to get something with a much wider deck on it, so it's less back and forth. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's true. Today's temperature high is going to be 88. I can also confirm that. Brayton is here. We got the AC going. I can feel it's nice and cool in the studio. So haven't got that hot air going yet, but that'll happen soon enough and heat up this studio, that's for sure. Little lawnmower robot. Yeah, I've looked at that, although that would take way more than 2 hours to cut my lawn, and they haven't gotten it down to where you like get the nice striping going on. So waiting to see when that becomes affordable, but also, a realistic thing. But hey, what happens if you set up your NDI with a discovery server and for some reason it's not available? Well, that is a great conundrum because if DS becomes unavailable, all the broadcasts disappear. So that is one of the problems. The way around it is to write a little script that if DS shuts off, it automatically reboots. So there's that option out there in the wild. And whoa, this camera that's the 110. It looks very warm. Yes, so if your DS shuts off, then obviously all of your signals will become undiscoverable because Discovery Server turns off the Bonjour Discover function of NDI and directs all traffic towards a single IP on your network. So you definitely need to work in redundancy for that. Now, in the NDI 5 toolkit, there are abilities to have redundant discovery servers. However, that's not written in the BirdDog code as of yet. Last I checked, it's not available in the NDI 5 BirdDog stuff. So what you really need to do is light up a script that would basically run, and if the app ever shuts down or has a problem or the computer reboots, it will automatically restart Discovery Server for you. So creating some sort of way to make sure that always comes back for you automatically. Hey, it's good timing of the show on my commute home from my day job. Oh, that must be nice to be all done. We're only in the morning over here in the U.S. on the eastern side in the Eastern time zone. So Michigan is in the Eastern time zone, and it's currently 11:12 a.m. So looking forward to my commute home as well. But enjoy that, and glad you could join from your commute. Hi from Switzerland. Happy to join for the first time. Well, that's pretty cool. I'm also not going to attempt to name here because I'm really nervous about butchering it. But that's really neat that you're able to join us over there from Switzerland. That's great. Hey, get that battery-powered riding mower. Yeah, so it can die halfway through the cutting the lawn. Yeah, I really like being able to cut my lawn all at one time. And this weekend, my neighbor, I started cutting my lawn. It was like 7 o'clock at night on Friday, Saturday, 7 o'clock on Saturday. Started cutting my lawn, and I was like doing the perimeter. So I do a couple of circles around the perimeter of my lawn, and I started cutting, doing the striping on my lawn, and my neighbor was totally outside cooking stuff on his barbecue, and he kind of like waved at me or whatever, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I was cutting a few more, and he went inside, and some stranger came out of his house that I've never seen before and was just watching me. So I kind of gave him the smile and nod, and he did not wave back. And so I thought, oh, maybe he's having like a dinner party, and the offer was, come on out and we'll eat outside and have a campfire and all that. So I was like, well, I'll just cut the front lawn then. So then I went to the front, and I just cut the front lawn and parked the mower, which was fine because that's when my mower broke, right after I got kind of done with that. So I went inside and looked out my kitchen window, which I can see my neighbor's backyard. And sure enough, he's out there with a campfire. They're sitting around the table eating their dinner. I thought, well, guess I'll finish this tomorrow. So Sunday after service, I went home and cut the grass in the heat of the day. So hopefully he was able to have his dinner party in peace. Because I know how I would feel if I had friends over and I was, all of a sudden my neighbors all started cutting their lawn. So, do unto others. So if it's like $400, then I'm going to buy a new mower. That I understand. Might be time to invest in one. Hey, that would be nice, but I don't know if I can swing for that. And here's the link over on Twitch, by the way, if you want to see what Ryobi lawnmower Frink is talking about. And there's also that storage piece. So that's the piece that I always think about last, and I've been really tempted to buy like a legit like 1950s tractor, like a Ford tractor, and have a big PTO finishing mower on the back of it. I think that would be so cool. But where am I going to put that? I'm going to have to definitely sell my mower if I buy that. But there you go. Will established connections be affected on reboot? Oh, or if it dies? I don't know. If it dies, you might need to. It depends on the connection type, I guess. If it's UDP, probably not, or RUDP, probably not. If it's TCP, probably. I don't know. I'm kind of like guessing here. Multicast, no. It shouldn't affect it because the network is responsible for transporting that information once the connection is made. But see, Bonjour is really for discovery, so it shouldn't. But I haven't tested that. It shouldn't, but I'm sure there's some weird caveat about that. 2.5 hours of battery life. Brand new, right? How about after 300 hours? Yeah, they are better now. And they don't die as fast. It's true. Husqvarna has an auto mower, and that's the way to go. Always a perfect cut. Gasoline is so 1990s. Electric is the way to go. Yeah, I know. I'm also a horsepower fan. Like when I need to do landscaping, I like to have a mower that can give a little torque. But I haven't seen that necessarily in the electric mower realm. But that might, again, I haven't done my due diligence on that, so I haven't researched that to the nth degree. You just buy more battery packs. Yeah, that seems like an added expense. just like gases, I guess. Hey, so last week Balu dropped off today's snacks on stream, and I don't even know how to. These are Pringles enchilada adubada. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but this is some sort of. There's flames on the container, so that is supposedly a very hot item, and then Bird Dog Brayton brought in homemade salsa, hot salsa. So we put in a little container, heavy on the garlic and apparently heavy on the peppers. So here's the plan. Today's Snacks on Stream, which I'll do early just so that we can get into the NDI Tools conversation. And I know we've talked about NDI Tools, but it's always good to have a refresher. And I want to cut this up and make this available on YouTube. But so I have some tortilla chips also supplied by Brayton and his salsa. And then I have these hot chips that were supplied by Balu. And then what we're going to do, so we're going to participate in two different realms here, and then I'm going to open these and try these, and then I'm going to try them with the salsa. So we got a 3-parter today. Also, coffee brought to you not by Ember Mugs today, so keep your coffee hot and your creamer curdled. And then I have a big giant stein of water. So looking forward to it. Maybe might be sweating to the oldies today, just like old times. And then Thursday, don't miss Snacks on Stream on Thursday, because I did order last week new flavors of spicy Korean ramen, the good old Buldak brand, back to the original, and they also appear to be spicy. So on Thursday it will be a cheese flavor, and the next Tuesday will be another hot, spicy tomato style Buldak. So pretty excited about that. Can't wait to relive the olden days. And now that my taste buds have healed from the last round, this should be pretty spicy. So, yeah, we're going to find out a lot more about that. So, electric motors have 100% torque all the way down to 0 RPMs. Do you have some information on that I can verify that statement? Because that seems quite the statement. Not many dinosaur cars beating my Tesla. Gasoline is like SDI over NDI. That is also quite the statement. It's true. The issue I have with the Teslas is if I want to drive for like 12 hours, like when I go camping, Tesla's not going to work for that, and also not going to be able to take me into the woods where there are no paved roads and I need a foot worth of clearance. Now you might say, well, Cybertruck is coming out. True, Cybertruck is coming out, but that is not the same price point as a Tesla coupe. And actually, in my instance, I would like the Tesla long range, which is a lot more money than just the base model. So I get it. I appreciate it. Most people are not doing what I do and going off-roading into the woods of northern Ontario, into the Canadian Shield, and driving like crazy for an hour off-road And then there's no charging stations in the woods. And so even if I did get the Tesla back there, then I can't plug it into anything. So then I'd have to go back out to North Bay, which is 2 hours away, to charge it up. And then, is 40 minutes enough to get me home, which is 8 hours away? I don't know. So my problem is what I want to do is not very conducive to electric vehicles yet. But hey, maybe the solar panel thing will take off one of these days, and I'll be able to just capture and harness the energy of the sun. No, seriously, I'm waiting for that technology to become real, because that will revolutionize what we do up there. But until then, that's not going to work for me. I need to be able to drive 12 hours straight and not stop and not have to wait 40 minutes for a charge. And how long does a full charge take on a Cybertruck? Because that's really what I would need. The beautiful thing is I can take 5 minutes and fill up with some dinosaur juice, as you stated, in North Bay, and get back in the truck and keep driving. And it takes me 5 minutes. But hey, I saw a Cybertruck in Ann Arbor, or at least I thought I saw it. The guy at Somerset store said that it was the pinnacle of trucks. Wow. Also, ballsy statement. People are getting into making big statements about things these days. Electric motors have no gears and therefore no torque conversion, so 100% of the torque is available from a dead stop. Never mind, I didn't. It was something else. Oh, gotcha. I can't wait to see the pinnacle of all trucks. I can't imagine the Cybertruck design. I like it, but I also feel like it's remnant of the Aztec, the Pontiac Aztec. Remember that? The Pontiac Aztec came out, and there were some people that were all about it, and they thought it was the coolest looking vehicle, and a whole bunch of people that thought, I will never buy that thing because it looks terrible. And that was people's opinions. And I think Cybertruck, because it's so cool and it's electric and supposed to have ballistic glass and whatever, all that stuff about it is really neat. But do people really want to drive it? I mean, do people want to drive it? Do they want to own it? And what's the maintenance schedule on that thing look like? Like, what is a battery replacement in a Cybertruck? What does that entail? I realize everyone's brand new. You're not going to have to think about that stuff. But let's go down the road about 5 or 10 years. Like, if it goes out of warranty, are you just screwed? Do you have to buy an extended warranty on a truck? I just want to know, like, what's the long-term game? Also, how much platinum is in those batteries? That's the other question, because I've heard that mining platinum is not ideal. So, what about F-150 Lightning? I like the look of the F-150 Lightning. Again, I don't know how practical it is for what it is that I want to do. I haven't gone deep dive into the specs on that, but hey, there you go. Might be an option. Although I think Ford just did kind of a fatal error, if I'm not mistaken. I saw an article there where they're like, basically their electric division is going to have some major issues selling these vehicles now because of something corporate put in place, but whatever. It looks like something I drew in first grade. It's true. It's if you just take a ruler and you could totally make that Cybertruck. And I mean, they saved on R&D for sure, because it's really easy to draw that truck. What's the cost of a new transmission and engine? I've never had to put a new transmission and engine in my 10-year-old truck. So I don't know. And I didn't have to do it in my last truck that was like 13 years old. So I've had good luck with that so far. Now I might have to do a transmission in my 2017 Explorer, because it's shifting odd. But I know that one of the owners of Bird Dog had to buy a new battery for his Tesla. He bought it when it was brand new. Like, they had just announced it, and so he got like one of the first ones in Australia, evidently. And he just had to replace it with a new battery. And I think it was to the tune of like $40,000, which is 2 F-150s in my world. So I think I would prefer 2 F-150s over a battery, but that's just me. I don't know. And look, as time goes along, prices are going to come down, right? So Yeah. I think his Tesla is actually 7 years, or was 7 years old when he did the replacement. I'm pretty sure it was early last year he did that. So it was only 7 years old, and it needed an entirely new fuel distribution system. We'll put it that way. Not an engine. Didn't need an engine or a transmission. Just needed to basically replace what would be considered the fuel tank. And that replacement on my truck is not as expensive as an engine and transmission. I'll put it that way. Anyways, you don't have to convince me. I think electric cars are great. I mean, I'm very interested to see where that technology goes, because the more commonplace it becomes, the better and more R&D will go into it, and then, the more efficient it will become, and the infrastructure will get in place, and more people will have them. And so if it keeps moving in that direction, that's great. There's just some things I'd like to, the fuel distribution game is already and has been established since like the 50s in the U.S. And so, filling up with gas is not really an issue. It's more about the price. But where do you recharge your Tesla vehicle when you're in Northern Ontario? Actually, let's find out. Recharge stations for electric cars in Northern Ontario. Let's just say I'm going to plan a trip, right? So let's start with a charge hub, Ontario EV. Oh, guys, you got to do better than this. You got to provide a map. Okay, here we go. So if we say Northern Ontario, I'll share this screen in a moment. And, whoops, that's Michigan. All right, Northern Ontario. And if I go over to North Bay, which is kind of the last major hub, before, whoops, I guess I have to share it on here. So present, share screen, share tab, this one. Okay, so let's have a little look-see. So here is Charge Hub, and it basically just shows your charging stations. So I go camping in Temagami, and there appears to be a level 3 DCFC charging station available in Temagami. Now, I don't go into town because that's another like 30 minutes, but we camp around here. And so there is a charging station here. Whether or not it could go on these back roads, that's to be decided. But the closest real hub is going to be about 2 hours south into North Bay, which is what this area is here. And it's along Highway 11. So here's Canadian Tire, which means that is right around where we stop. And there's a Tesla charging station, supercharger, at what appears to be where we stop for lunch. So that's good news. And then there's another one down the street, which does not have a picture, at the Subaru. Or maybe it's just for Subarus. I don't know. And then there's a couple more like further on in town before you would leave. But anyways, this is where you'd have to charge up. It's 24 hours. There are 6 plugs. And I don't know how fast the superchargers are, but you could park here and then walk to lunch, basically. If you had there's a animal in that car. Anyways, there's a dog just chilling. Okay, so that would kind of be the last hurrah before you went anywhere beyond there. And then battery warranty on these are 300,000 miles. You heard of the Tesla insurance? No, I have not. If you get a Tesla, I wonder, will my price be higher because I live in Detroit? My 7-year-old Tesla has no problems or basically no service. Every electric outlet is a charger. Every electric outlet is a charger? What do you go? But like when you go and there are no outlets for miles around, like I'm not going to a campground. I'm going camping in the woods, literally in the woods. There are no roads where I go. That's what I'm talking about. I love taking road trips in my Tesla. In the Tesla. What's going on, Timothy? That's great. I think road trips would be great. You know what I love taking road trips in? My giant spacious F-150. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. It's great. But that's not the point of today's show. Is to discuss whether or not electric vehicles are the answer here. The point of today's show is to talk about NDI Tools and to eat some spicy food. So we definitely need to probably do that. Sounds like you need to bring your portable water wheel and park near a river. There are no rivers where I go camping either, by the way. It's a lake that basically is the water is not doing is not moving at that speed. It is trickling between lakes. But a water wheel, there's an idea. Maybe we could figure out a place where there is a place that has running water near where we stop, but we have never seen. Like, we've gone looking for it, but it's way down a ravine that's at least 100 feet down. And so we've never climbed down there because if you get injured where I go, it is 2 hours to the nearest hospital, or you can pay $3,000 to get airlifted out. And it's not a helicopter, it's a float plane. So that's where I go camping. So we are pretty cautious about what we do in terms of dangerous things, because if you get hurt, you're not going to be with a medical physician for at least 2 hours. So that injury better not kill you in 2 hours. Thanks for stopping by, Timothy. Hey, doing well, loving the stream. Fantastic. I'm glad somebody's enjoying it. I never know if I'm making enemies by the topics we cover. But hey, thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate that. All right. Before we do anything else, let me throw up Snacks on Stream bumper, because we probably need to get underway on this if I'm going to eat spicy food while talking about NDI Tools. So that'll be fun. Let's check it out.
Just making up stuff to start drama.
Look, I don't know.
Look at him.
Wish me luck, folks. It's my first Vegemite experience.
Final, this is like cheese flavor or something. It doesn't really look too appetizing.
Good golly, this is something else, man.
Here's the thing about Pop Rocks, and I don't know if I'm the only one like this. Pop Rocks have always been a social experience for me.
I did not think that is what you were going to say. That's hilarious.
That is awful. Oh, God, that's so bad. Jeez. Holy smokes, man.
Yes, Snacks on Stream. Here we go, everybody. So we got some spicy food today, and I love this part of the show because I like spicy food, and so this will be good. But we will today. We've got. I guess I don't need the playlist on just yet. Today we have, courtesy of both Balu and Brayton, we have some really like homemade spicy salsa, heavy on the garlic and heavy on the peppers, which I'm a big fan of. So thumbs up there. And then he's supplied some chips to do the first round. Then I'm going to try, Balu has supplied us with some enchilada-style Pringles that I'm going to try separately after I attempt to clear the palate with hot coffee, and we all know how that goes. And then after that, I'm going to then combine the two and see if I can't hurt myself even more. So first we'll do the salsa, and then we'll get into NDI Tools and talk a little bit about some of the options that you have with a free toolkit from NDI, which is really great. It should always be in your bag of tricks. If you're in the NDI world, you should definitely go to ndi.tv/tools and download the latest version, which supports NDI 5.5, and that is some cool stuff. So there's some easy free tools that will help you do wonders with NDI stuff and help you troubleshoot things too. So hey, if you stay long enough, solar would work. Or you could just get a generator. So burning dinosaur fuel to power my electric car. Hey, you should watch The Long Way Up. Okay. Hey, I can't wait to try it. Giddy up. Uncle says more garlic. Boom. Yeah, here's the thing. We make homemade salsa at home, and because we have a small garden. And the wife puts garlic in that salsa, and that is That'll keep the vampires and the women away. I'll tell you that much, because it is strong enough for, you can almost stand on that stuff. It's strong enough. So I've got a generous portion of this homemade garlic here. I'll cut back over to this shot just so you can see. I'm not cheapening out. Where is that? There it is. Okay. I got to move that camera into a more respectable spot because it's in a really weird angle. It's over there now instead of above. So let's give this a go. Thanks, Brayton. Thanks for bringing this in. There's the burn. It is a respectable burn. It's hot and spicy is what Brayton told me. So, yeah. If you're watching, Brayton, what peppers are in there? That's real. I mean, that burn, it's not killer, but it's definitely, it's not unenjoyably hot. You know what I mean? Like, the temperature of the peppers is not going to take away from the flavor and the enjoyability of the salsa. It's probably about the right level for me for salsa. Yeah. It's good stuff. I'm a big fan of homemade salsa, so there you go. He offered it to the office, so it's probably not laced with laxatives or anything, so I'm not too concerned about that. But yeah, there's a big bowl of it out there. So that's good stuff. Okay, so now, to kind of clear the palate, we're going to eat some of these salty chips just straight. It's going to absorb that jalapeno oil, or whatever the pepper is. And then I got my spicy Pringles. So we're going to open this up and have a little, do the sniff test. There we go. Okay. So that is very, like, cliche taco seasoning mix smelling. Like, if you were to buy, like, Kroger mild taco seasoning, that's what it smells like when you open the package. But, you know, I like Kroger seasoning, so no, it's not a problem so far. Here we go. Okay, so these are delicious, but the burning flames, no. No. There's no heat. Now, this is probably Northern American hot. In terms of, like, it's spicy. It's not really. So fair enough. They're not doing the spicy Korean ramen challenge. That went out. Wrong tube. Oh, man. Okay. Oh, it took my voice. Okay, that one just went down the wrong tube. It's not spicy. It just was like the dust went down my windpipe. Ow. Oh, man. That hurt. Okay. Trying to get my voice back here. Wowzers. I was not expecting that. All right. It's coming back. My voice is coming back. That actually does not happen too often. Where it takes my voice. But it definitely did. So, I would say word to the wise, but the wise don't normally need a word. Yeah, watch out. If you inhale the dust on this chip, which I'm going to continue eating, by the way. Yeah. I probably had like 8 or 10. Oh, there's my voice. I probably had about 8 or 10 of those. Really tasty. I would eat those again. But not spicy. Not hot, at least. Not compared to this. Whatever Brayton brought in today. Definitely not as spicy as that. Flame broiled Pringles. Awesome. Hey, what tools are you using to show user comments on the stream? That is actually a feature of StreamYard, which is the service that I use to send this up. And I discovered StreamYard during some lawyers were showing they're having like discussions about court cases that were happening in real time. And so I was watching one of them. This is like over a year ago, I think, or maybe 2 years. So watching that, and they were doing that, but having guests on the show and then watching the court case live streamed. So they were just bringing up comments like that. Hey, so-and-so says this. And then everybody would talk about the comments that were being said, and they would explain what's happening in the court, during the process. They would, all these lawyers were sitting there like, oh, there's a problem, or that's going to be an issue, or this is why he's doing that, or we don't know why he's doing that, or all that. So I was really neat, and I thought, you know what? I have all of these different platforms that I stream to. So StreamYard goes to Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube twice, Twitch, and Twitter. And we stream to multiple outlets. The number one outlet, of course, everybody now, say it with me. Oh, whoops. Say it with me, but over at birddogjohn.tv, which is the YouTube channel for this show. If you subscribe to there, that helps me show that, hey, my channel's growing, and I can explain that to my bosses. So if you didn't discover me yet, head over to birddogjohn.tv. That's where you can find me. I'd really appreciate if you subscribe. You don't have to ring the bell or do any of that stuff. If you just subscribe, that shows that my channel is slowly growing and that people are watching and paying attention. That's always helpful. Anyways, but it streams to all of these simultaneous platforms, and so does Restream, so does vMix, kind of. But what I really like is that we can bring in comments from most of those platforms in real time. And and it's a little delayed, but I can bring those in, and then you guys can see those. So jalapenos and habanero peppers. Ooh, that is why the burn is so well. So now the final, let's see if this will make me choke, is these flaming enchilada Pringles with this salsa, whatever I've got left here. So here we go. Here's the evidence. Oh, sorry, other side. Here's the evidence that I'm actually doing this. And that's a good amount of salsa, right? And here we go. It's good, though. Really good. So the Pringles don't really hold salsa very well because they're so thin. But, yeah, salsa's really good. Well done. Whoever made this. If it was you, or I think you said somebody in your family. Excellent. That's strange. This round with the Pringles does not taste as spicy as it did with just the straight up chips. But I have cleaned that bowl. It is empty. Just a little bit of liquid left. Excellent. Both of those I would eat again, by the way. Good options. It did nuke my voice there. Actually, the Pringle nuked my voice there for a moment. But my aunt made it from the 2022 batch. Right on. Those herb peppers. Good stuff. Anyway, James, to answer your question, we are using, I'm using StreamYard. I have a subscription, kind of their highest personal level one. And it allows me to do that. Allows me to save like 50 hours of video. Allows me to host webinars. Allows me to do a bunch of stuff. So it's really it's well put together. And it also allows you to have like 2 cameras. So you can add a second camera. You can share a screen or a tab on a screen or something like that. Yeah. It's really cool. But I pipe everything in from vMix over NDI. So that's how I make that all happen. And I can show you how that's done in a minute. Okay. let's talk about NDI Tools real quick and just do a brief overview. If you want me to focus on something as I'm talking over each of the ones that I think are important and the ones that I understand, put a comment in the chat and I can talk a little bit more, or I can answer specific questions. Totally fine with that. This is purely a sharing of information, and we'll walk through that together. But I want you to know about a free toolkit that's out there, and quite honestly, I think that NDI, the company, this is like unsung hero stuff, okay? Because the tools that are involved, that they have available for free, mind you, you don't have to pay for them. They're just available for free, and they're super helpful. You can put them on any machine that you want. The only thing is that you have to give away your firstborn to get the code to download them. No, I'm kidding. You have to register, and then you're allowed to download them. My suggestion is register, download them, but save that executable or the DMG file, depending on which one you're using. I will tell you now, the PC version of these tools is much more robust than the Mac version. If you're looking for a Mac version, head over to Sienna Tools or Sienna.tv and look at their tool offering, because that's a great little that's a great little toolkit to have. But check out the Sienna.tv website if you're looking for NDI tools for Mac, and then NDI.tv/tools if you're looking for them for PC, because they're quite robust on the PC from NDI. Okay. Whoops. Let's try that again. All right. So over here is my NDI toolkit. When you download them, they have this cool little launcher now that shows you basically all of them with the exception of two. But these are like the main tools in your toolkit that you can use to kind of troubleshoot things or get things up and running, or try NDI if you want to just try it out and see what it's like. This is a great little free little toolkit that can be your entry level into NDI. And forgive me here, I'm looking off to the side because my screen's over here still. So the first and foremost, the thing that I'm using, for example, is NDI Webcam. NDI Webcam basically takes an NDI source and turns it into a USB style input on your machine. So if you open that, you can then capture any NDI source on your network and turn it into a usable USB source. So you can bring it into Teams or Zoom, or in my instance, StreamYard or something like that. Super easy. You open that up, and then the bottom little corner where your sys tray is, you open up it'll appear in the sys tray. You can click on it, select which NDI source you want, which NDI audio source you want, and then you can pipe those in to whatever program that you're using. I use that at home. I use it here. I use it in my office. I use it in a bunch of places. And so really handy if you have a camera that's generating NDI that you want to use as a webcam, or you want to use it for a webcam function, point in case StreamYard. I'm taking the NDI source out of vMix. Okay, so I have the fourth output is outputting NDI, and I bring it onto my network as an NDI source. And then I use the PC version of this, and I run webcam on, I use the Mac version of this, and I convert it to a USB source on my Mac here in the studio, and then I stream that up to StreamYard as my USB input. So that's how I'm using webcam. Really handy, super simple to have, and high quality. Studio Monitor. If you've been in the NDI game at all, you know what Studio Monitor is, but essentially Studio Monitor is the way that we view and test NDI sources on our network. So if we fire NDI Studio Monitor and we open that up, we're going to get a little program that looks like this. This is NDI Studio Monitor. And Studio Monitor, if you right click anywhere in the window, I know it says like click on that. Oh, whoops. It says like click on the hamburger. Okay, well, if you click on the hamburger, we'll get to test patterns in a minute. You click on the hamburger, that's fine, but you can right click anywhere in this, okay? And it'll bring up all your sources. So you right click, and then look, I've got all my NDI sources here on my NDI network that all appear in this list. And so there's a whole bunch of things going on in this office that we can check out. But of course, the P4K is the main camera right here, and that is that source. There's inside Studio Monitor, there's a great little tool as well. Like maybe I just want to check the source and make sure that it's positioned correctly, because you can steer this camera right here with the onboard PTZ controls. So we can steer that. I can maybe line this up a little better. So you can drive it around. You can call presets. You can store presets. You can change the autofocus to manual. You can zoom in and out if you want. So if you want to make it a little closer, a little further away, all the options are in here to kind of set up your camera, get the presets set, do the things. All right, but then this connection, if it's full NDI, is going to be taking 140 megs, or if it's in 4K, it's going to be taking 200 megs just to show that inside Studio Monitor. So I don't really want to do that. I just want to position it correctly and make sure I can see it on this network. So you can go to Settings, you can say Video, and then select Low Bandwidth. Low Bandwidth basically changes this to the proxy stream that's also coming out of my camera. So I want to change it to proxy. I select low bandwidth, and now I have the low bandwidth version of this, and my computer isn't going to have to work twice as hard just to show something that, just to set it up and get it angled correctly. So if you right-click inside Studio Monitor, there you go. That gives you all the quick little access to all of your NDI sources on your network that are visible to your group or on your Discovery server and what have you. There's a couple of beta options in here, like the connection reliability. That's what this little bar is at the bottom of the Studio Monitor. I don't find it to be actually accurate. And so you can see there the video thing keeps like, I don't know if that's drop frames. I don't know if that's just stability, if it's just the computer decoding fast enough. I don't know if that's an NDI Tools readout in terms of like the tool's performance or the camera's performance or the network's performance. I don't know. I don't know what that is. But it is a beta feature at best. And so I'm just going to turn that off because it's kind of annoying and deceiving, because I don't have any drop frames on this P400 or P4K. Sorry. So there you go. Okay, so Studio Monitor, and I'm just going to double check here and take a look at this. So Daniel has a great question. So I'm actually not running the latest version of Tools on this computer. This is the 5.5.3, I believe. On here, but they have recently updated, and this is 5.5.0. Okay, the latest is 5.5.4, and that happened right around before NAB, and the icons now look different. Okay, so I won't comment on the icons because I think enough has been said about that, but the icons now look different to work more with their marketing ideas, and so they aren't going to have these different colors. They're going to have icons with symbols, but don't worry, if the symbols don't really make a lot of sense, the names are still available. So we're gonna reference the names and not the colors of the symbols. Okay, so screen capture. Screen capture is actually a program I'm currently using on this machine to show you this output. So you're looking at a screen capture of a secondary monitor that I have that then comes in as NDI. Okay, so back it up. Screen capture generates an NDI source from your screen. Okay, you turn it on, and out of the box, it takes the resolution of your monitor, okay, of your screen output, and makes that an NDI source. And we can find that actually inside Studio Monitor. So if we open Studio Monitor again, and we say none. Okay, so on my machine, this is called a vMix machine, and here I have these Radeon RX VEGA MGL Graphics 1 and Graphics 2. Those are my screens that are being generated into NDI. And so screen 2 should be this one. And look at that. It is a repeat of a repeat of a repeat of a repeat. That's what NDI screen capture is. And you can do one more thing inside screen capture, which I found out recently, is that you can select on the video output to also include the mouse. So if you want your audience, for example, if you're doing screen capture and you want your audience to see the mouse, you have to tell it inside screen capture to do that. But then, if you're saying, okay, well, now click on the maximize button. Whoa, that's crazy. And you want people to see you doing that, you have to tell NDI to also capture the mouse input. So I'll do that here because that's helpful for you guys here to see what we're doing. But screen capture has a few little options where you can, and I'll just talk you through them because I can't really show you the sys tray on that screen. But there are some options. You can change the frame rate to use the monitor frame rate to do 60p 5994p or 50p, which is a PAL rating, but do 60, 5994, or 50 for you over in Europe to match perhaps your production suite. So if all my cameras are running in 5994 and I want screen capture to also run in 5994, you can set it that way to do that. Or you can set it as 30p, 2997, or 25p. All right, and it will then output the captured screen at that refresh rate to match the rest of your suite. Or if you don't care, you can just say match the monitor's refresh rate. Now be careful, because if you have gaming screens, they're going to run at maybe 75 hertz or 120 hertz or 144 hertz or 240 hertz. And that is not going to be super compatible with the rest of your NDI infrastructure, which is why they give you the option, I think, to do that. You can also configure a region of interest. It's called an ROI, and it basically just shows only a portion of your screen. That does work when you're bringing it into vMix, but it doesn't work when you're trying to decode that source on a BirdDog decoder, for example, because we're looking for SMPTE resolutions. So you're going to want to stick to something that's 1080, 2160, something like that if you're trying to output that on an NDI decoder from source, from screen capture to decoder. You're going to want to have that as 1080 or 2160, or you're going to want that as 720 or something like that. You're not going to want to do a region of interest at like some wonky resolution and then try and push that to a decoder, because the decoder is not going to be able to see it. So be careful when you're doing region of interest that it needs to be a SMPTE resolution if you're going directly to a decoder. You can change the audio source. So right now my screen capture has no audio source, but I could change it to system audio, for example. If I want to show you a YouTube video, I could change it to system audio, and then the audio source that comes in on the desktop screen capture, this that you're looking at right now, that would be whatever it is that I tell the audio source it needs to be. I could also change it to be like my microphone input, or I could change it to be a VLC output or something like that, an audio input that's on your computer. You could link it to that and create that as the audio side and the video side of that NDI source. And then we've already talked about that. Now you can also enable KVM on the screen capture, which means that if I open NDI Studio Monitor on another computer in my office, I could control the computer through KVM. So I have a keyboard and a mouse, basically, when I'm interacting with the NDI source. And maybe we could show that inside of, let's see here, screen capture. And I want to do graphic 2. Okay, so then KVM becomes an option. We can click on KVM, and now we can control it inside of Studio Monitor. Be careful, because you're going to get locked in here with some of that. Okay, so we want to probably close Studio Monitor, because you're going to get locked into that screen if you're using KVM. If you don't know what KVM is, it's basically a way to remote into the computer using NDI. Okay, which is a really neat way to manage multiple computers, is by just running screen capture with KVM enabled. And now when you look at it in Studio Monitor, you can control all those virtual machines over NDI, which is kind of slick. Anyways, screen capture gives you that ability. Be sure that you're authorized to use KVM in your installation, that it doesn't breach some sort of IT permission, because you can get a lot of trouble if you start enabling that across your network and IT doesn't approve that sort of stuff. So be warned, be sure that you have permission, or that you're like the admin for that, because I don't want you to get in trouble. Okay, so one of the great questions from NetHab is, what if they're gaming at 144 hertz? Well, if you're gaming at 144 hertz, you're going to want to dumb it down to 60 through screen capture if you're using it as confidence monitors or something like that, because we do not encode at 144 hertz on any of our devices in any of our fleets anywhere. So 144, you have to run screen capture in 60, or maybe if that's the case, run it in 30, because you want to lower the CPU usage of the computer. And 30 would be less than 60 technically. Okay. So that is screen capture. Now, test patterns is so cool, because test patterns allows you to generate an NDI source on your network that can be various. Oh, where are we here? Test patterns is still loading. So test patterns allows you basically to generate an NDI source at at a certain output and allow you then to test your decoders or your ability to send NDI across the network, including audio. So it gives you the option to, I do not know why test patterns is not opening. So it does allow you to generate NDI and generate audio. What's going on here? That's not good. Test patterns won't open. Well, I want to showcase this, but won't do it. Still having some issues with the spice. Test patterns basically, but it does allow you to generate an actual NDI output. Now be careful with test patterns, because unless you're using a video, which you can create your own test patterns inside the program, if you're using a static screen, it's just going to be a single frame until you change the frame. So it's not really going to be testing 1080p 60. It's going to be testing 1080p 1. Okay? So you can upload your own pictures. You can also use test patterns to generate an NDI source with your logo on it, and then have that as your fallback source on your BirdDog devices. So when the source disappears, it goes to the test pattern, which is running on a server somewhere on your NDI network, and that be your fallback source, which is your company logo or your school's logo or motto or whatever you want to do. So you can customize it and leave it running at all times. So then you just add test patterns into the startup menu, and you leave that on as that's the test pattern you want to use. And then you have a fallback source, which when your IT department sees that symbol, it means that NDI source is not being connected, or, it's currently not decoding. So if I shut off vMix, for example, my NDI devices that are showing this, BirdDog Play in this instance, could fall back to a test pattern that's running in a different room. It could fall back to that. And then when I walk in and I see the TV and it's got my logo up there, I think, okay, the main source is not being decoded. That's a test pattern. So it's a nice way to know, but also keep it nice and clean so that those who are looking at those TVs or decoders don't see like an error message or the BirdDog logo or something like that. So that's an easy way to do that. So test pattern is great. It's a great way to test things. Fourth, hence the name. Fourth, hence? Is that right? I don't think that's right. Access Manager. Access Manager is going to require you to give it admin credentials, but Access Manager is one of those unsung programs that we really need to talk through. Now, I've done overviews on Access Manager before in previous shows, but I'll try and give you a general rundown just so that it's available in this video if you're watching this post-show. Groups are what we do when we want to group NDI sources together, kind of like in a softbox situation. So not a lighting softbox, but like we want to put sources in a bin together, and we don't want them to interact with other NDI sources. Well, you'd add them as groups. And if you need to add a computer to that group, you would do that here in Access Manager. So the receive group is basically a group that sources coming into the computer, and then the actual send group is sources that this computer belongs to. Groups that this computer belongs to in the NDI world. So I belong to the public group, which basically means anyone on my NDI network can see the outputs that my computer is generating. Public is default in the NDI world, and so it's automatically you're in the public group unless you specify otherwise. When you add a group to a receive group, you also need to keep the public group in here. If you replace the public group with, say, Studio 2901, which is used to be what all my devices in this studio belong to, that group. If you remove the public group, the sources on your computer will not broadcast to the other devices that don't belong to a NDI group. Okay? So by default, they all belong to the public group until you change it, and then they don't belong to the public group. And then you have to specify, no, I want to still receive the public group NDI sources outside of the Studio 2901 sources. Okay? I don't know if that makes any sense. All right. I'm going to scroll down here to, okay, that's just groups on that first page. External sources is if you are doing multiple subnets. Now, we talked about subnets last week. And if you're running a network that is like 255.255.255.192 or whatever it is that you want to change it to be like a WAC 16, and you're going to have multiple subnets on the same network, this is where you would specify that you want the computer to look on other subnets for sources. And you have to do that specifically. You have to say, all right, scan my subnet scan my 192.168.1 network, but also add these ones to the list of items to scan, because you should have sources at these locations on, the additional subnets. Subnets, now, I always say this right at this point, subnets are different than VLANs. If you have a different VLAN, that's not a different subnet. It is, but it's not the same as what this function is for. This is for talking across subnets that are in the same VLAN, okay? That's what external groups is for. Now, if you're having trouble, for example, finding a specific source that's in your same, your 22255 subnet, try adding it here to the external sources. So my computer is 192.168.1.45, but I'm having trouble finding a source that I know is at 1.75. I could punch it in here, reopen Studio Monitor, and see if I could see that source. Maybe there's a discovery issue. Maybe Bonjour is blocked. Maybe MDNS isn't working right. Maybe I have an error on my DHCP. Maybe there's a unmanaged switch somewhere that's wigging out, or that is just unmanaged and you shouldn't have that on there. Maybe we have to specify. If you put it on this list, you might find it, and then you can figure out, why didn't the network naturally tell me or announce that this device was here? But you can manually add it here. And all you do there is you hit the plus button, you say it's an NDI source name, you put in the IP address 1.75, and then you can even name it. So if you want it to show up as a different name, you can do that. But I guess not in this instance. And then we can hit OK. It'll add it to the list as an NDI source. And then when I open Studio Monitor, okay, so you have to open Studio Monitor to re-trigger the announcement command. And you reopen Studio Monitor, it will say, hey, everybody, give me your information, and everybody will respond. And then it will specifically go after 1.75 and say, hey, you are supposed to have a source here. Are you there? And it should show up in Studio Monitor if the source is working correctly or if the network is configured correctly. And then you can simply just get rid of those if you need to by clicking the X. Okay, Advanced tab. This is where all the fun stuff is, in my opinion. Okay, so you can tell Access Manager what the preferred protocol is on your network by telling it under the Receive tab. I want to receive, preferably, packets that are RUDP. It does not mean exclusive. All right, it doesn't reject multicast packets. It doesn't reject TCP packets. It doesn't do that. My network preferred is RUDP, and so that's where it will camp out first. We actually recommend that if you're running a mix, here's a pro tip for you. If you're running a mix of NDI 5 and NDI 4, specify right here. Specify on the machine that you're doing the NDI switching on, specify what it's supposed to be. Reliable UDP, is it supposed to be TCP, is it supposed to be multi-TCP? Well, what is the deal? So specify what type of packets that you're supposed to be getting on the network if you're running a mix of NDI 4 and NDI 5, which I am. This is where we put in our multicast information. And a lot of people don't get into the customization of multicast. They just use the out-of-box multicast settings. And if you're running, in particular, a 4250, another pro tip, just checking this box and saying, I have multicast on my network, it'll say, hey, be careful. You need to know what you're doing here. Just checking this box and leaving these as default is the configuration for the 4250. So Netgear went one step further for you and made it super simple. If you're running the NDI 5 profile on the 4250 switch, okay, the NDI 5 with Dante, blah, 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 blah. If you're running that, you're enabled for multicast because the snooping's already set up. Multicast packet, the query is already set up. All that stuff's already done. Levent's already, or not Levent. Who's the lead engineer over there? Anyways, Netgear, ProAV Design at netgear.com have already done this for you. And so when you check that box, that's all you need to do. And then you would hit OK, and that would enable multicast on your NDI libraries, which is what we're editing. That's what Access Manager is here, okay? We're editing the NDI library database to know how to interact with your network. That's what Access Manager is. So if you check that and you hit OK, it will enable the NDI stuff or the multicast portion of the NDI realm. Okay, which I am running multicast on this network. Network mapping. This is kind of like, this is interesting. Interesting stuff. Let's put it that way. There's a couple of fun things in here and one thing that is kind of like, okay. The first is if you're running Discovery Server and you need this computer that you're using to know that you're using Discovery Server, you would check Discovery Server and then you'd put in, your 192.168, 1.45. If this is the computer that's running Discovery Server, I'd punch in 1.45 and I would hit OK. And it would add that to the NDI database on this computer inside NDI Tools to tell like Studio Monitor and to tell, the other services that are running Bridge and all that, to tell them, hey, we've got a Discovery Server on here. So Studio Monitor is actually going to open up and still send out a broadcast and be like, hey, anybody out there that's not talking multicast? But then it's also going to go to the multicast side of things and say, also, Discovery Server, give me the list. And Discovery Server will then turn around and give it a list. So the nature of NDI, I'm sorry, here, let me go down here real quick. Okay. So the nature of NDI Tools is it checks as much stuff as possible. It doesn't necessarily behave, as far as I know. It doesn't exclusively only check Discovery Server when you put this in here, in Access Manager. When you open Studio Monitor, it should check all available sources, but it also knows there are units that are not broadcasting that will be talking to Discovery Server. Hey, Discovery Server, give me that list. That's what it's going to say. Okay? So put in your Discovery Server here. Now, NDI 5 enables you to have multiple Discovery Servers. Now, this is particularly helpful if you want to divide your NDI installs. Instead of doing it on the network side, divide it by Discovery Servers. Okay? So here's something that you can do. You can run everything on the same 22255, WAC24 subnet. Everybody gets the same IP issues. You can run up DHCP reservation list. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. You can do all of that. And then you can break it up with Discovery Servers. And you can tell a group of devices that are in a lecture room or in a classroom, or maybe they're in your church auditorium, but you have other sources elsewhere. You can tell them to all talk to a single Discovery Server. And then the other rooms that have NDI in them, you can tell them to talk to different Discovery Servers at different IP addresses. And you can break it all up via Discovery Server, but they would all be on a flat subnet, on a WAC24 subnet. In here, you can add multiple Discovery Servers by just separating them by commas, okay? So it even tells you how to do that, right? If I click off of, where are we here? If I click off of this, it says, look, comma separated, and it shows you how to do it, okay? It shows you that you can separate different Discovery Servers by just using a comma. Pretty cool. So this computer, if this is my main switching machine, I need to have access to all of the NDI sources or a set of NDI sources. We're going to be doing lectures in multiple rooms or simultaneous or whatever you're doing. You can put them in here in Access Manager and do simultaneous multiple Discovery Servers. Now, one day, you will be able to do Discovery Server redundancy, which means that you could put in multiple Discovery Servers into a bird dog device, and it would report to both. And so if one Discovery Server fails, the other one keeps going. Now, when this launched, I thought that this was already in the SDK for NDI. I messed up. I thought this was already done. It is not. So bird dog devices can only report to one Discovery Server as of today, confirmed. Okay, I've asked the engineers, and they told me that that's the truth. One day, though, the plan is to have, I don't know when that day is, by the way, is to have redundancy built in so that you can put multiple Discovery Servers in a single bird dog camera or a bird dog decoder, and it will report to both or to all of them. And so if one Discovery Server shuts down, just like my friend in Stockholm had asked earlier today, if one of them shuts down, the system keeps going. But that's not done yet. It will be. That is the plan. That's the hope and dream. That's the feature request. It's just not there yet. Access Manager, though, already has that built in. And so we could use Discovery Server instead of doing groups or instead of doing VLANs or instead of doing subnets, we could use Discovery Server in that manner. And we could deploy it over multiple Discovery Servers and run those on multiple computers across, several rooms or lecture rooms or hotel conference rooms or whatever it is that you're doing. So really cool, really fun idea that you could use Discovery Server for there. The other thing I should mention is Discovery Server is great in all installations. And I actually think Discovery Server was designed to be installed when you install NDI on your network. That was the point. But the way that we were doing business back then, we didn't really talk about it. And whoops-a-daisy, we should have been. Because Discovery Server is really cool. If you run Discovery Server, it will, and you point your devices at it, it will keep those sources and in an active list. And then when you go to find that list, it doesn't have any broadcasts happening on the network. Discovery Server just has that active list, and your decoder can say, hey, give me the list, Discovery Server, and it gives you a complete list of all active sources on your network. It's really clean. It cuts down on some of the network traffic. It provides a way for you to verify that sources are working. And if a device doesn't know about the Discovery Server, so if I take a laptop, I'm a rogue guy, and I come to your installation, I plug into your NDI network, I can't see all your sources. I have to know where your Discovery Server is, and I have to join it in Access Manager in order for me to see all of your NDI sources. So it's kind of a security thing. It's like level 1 security. Stop the broadcasts, send them all to Discovery Server, and that way even some Joe Schmo who doesn't know what he's doing can't install Studio Monitor and see all of my cameras. So there you go. That one's for free, folks. Next is let's go to NDI device analysis. Alias, I'm sorry. This is if I don't want my devices on my computer where NDI Tools is installed, if I don't want them to be called the computer name, which is vMix machine, okay, if I want them to be called something else, I can change it here. And this will change the MDNS broadcasts out of my computer to be whatever it is that I want. So if I want to call this like Studio 2901 vMix, I could put it in like this. Oh, actually, that's vMix, right, guys? Okay, so like this. And I hit OK. It's going to change in the libraries what it is that I'm broadcasting. And then in Studio Monitor, that's the way it's going to appear. Studio 2901 vMix. Because maybe what you did is you went over to my boy, the goat of the NDI world, Tom Sinclair, and you ordered 6 vMix machines from him. And they're all called the same thing, like vMix Studio or vMix Machine or whatever. And you said, look, I want 6 identical vMix machines. I got all these students. I want to teach them how to produce, but I just want 6 of the same. And he's like, gladly, I'll make you all of those. He pumps those out for you. He ships them over to you. You plug them in. Well, they're all called the same thing. The computer names are all the same. The MAC addresses are different, but the computers are all called the same thing. Well, you have, production suite 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, we can just change this to like prod 1. And now all NDI sources that are generated on that first vMix machine will be called prod 1 instead of, vMix machine and get kind of all jumbled and confused. So you can change the NDI device alias name, NDI sources that are being generated on your computer where NDI Tools is installed. You can change it there in Access Manager, and we'll change the name for the MDNS function. So when you look at it in Studio Monitor, the name is different. All right, the last little one is preferred NIC. This one, I genuinely believe I don't understand. I think it works. I just don't know how yet. The idea is that if you have multiple NIC cards, NDI, and I'll insult your intelligence here and read this to you, but NDI makes effective use of available network connections for best transmission. Use this option to force NDI traffic to prefer a specific network whenever possible. Here's the thing. I have tested this, and I cannot get it to work. I don't know why. Because the little icon here tells me exactly what I want to know. Here's the deal. I have a vMix machine that has like a dual NICs. And I've got one connection that goes to my NDI network, and I've got one connection that goes to my internet at like a hotel. So I roll up, I set up my cameras, I plug in my 4250, I plug in my cameras, they power on, I plug in my vMix machine. We all get the same subnet range. And then I take the internet from the hotel, which is terrible. It's like 10 megs up. And I plug it into my vMix machine, my other NIC card, or my other NIC on the computer. What generally happens is that NDI generates on the NIC that has the active traffic, the internet and a few things, and it's really bad on Macs. But on a PC, generally, it gravitates as default towards that active network because it can get out to the internet, whatever. And if I have a closed network, like an NDI network that doesn't have that, that one is seen as the secondary network. Well, so you would think then, you'd go over here and you'd say, hey, Ethernet 2 is my NDI network, and Ethernet just straight is my internet network. So I'm going to select Ethernet 2, and now my libraries, my NDI libraries, know that that is my NDI network, and that is the one that should be forced to be used. I cannot get this thing to work. It always goes out the internet network. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I genuinely believe that it does work. I just don't know how to fix it. Because when I do this, it doesn't matter. It still load balances. It still tries to like go out the internet one when I'm using a closed network. So I can't get this feature to work, but it is highly desired. I'll put it that way, because if it did work, this would solve a lot of problems, even tickets that I have open today. I've got one guy that's using Wirecast, and his BirdDog device cannot see his Wirecast output, but it can see a test patterns output. And he looks at the Wirecast output, it shows up in Studio Monitor, but he looks at the test pattern, it shows up in Studio Monitor, but he can't get Wirecast to show up on the Mini. And what I think is happening is Wirecast is outputting to the network on his internet side and not on his NDI side. And I don't think that there's a way to force Wirecast to do it, and I know that that feature doesn't really work yet. At least I haven't been able to get it to work. And so I don't know what the deal is there, but if anybody from NDI or New Tech is watching, by all means, tell me what I am doing wrong. Charlie says, hi from Kenya. What's going on, Charlie? Wow, that's a long way away, my friend. Thank you for coming by and saying hi. I appreciate that. Always a pleasure to have folks check in from around the world. Kenya is a long way from here. Computers prefer the NIC set to be the default gateway. I have no rebuttal for that. I have only made the preferred network work and then running it with Discovery servers, run those on some Linux servers. Oh, nice. That's a good idea. I should test that. You know what? I don't have to test it. Sounds like mystery Facebook user, also known as Roan. Oh, what's going on, Roan? Thanks for checking in. That's a great idea. Hey, be mindful of public versus private network settings in the NIC. Windows will not allow MDNS on networks that are marked public. Roan from Denmark. Hey, cheers, Roan. Thanks for checking in. Oh, Denmark is also a long way away. Good stuff. That's so cool. So cool that you guys check in from all over the place. I should mention this, too, as a round out to Snacks on Stream. There is no burn left. Spicy salsa was delicious and gone. These were not... I don't know what the fire is on this. Like, I don't know. It's not fire. Anyways, they're delicious, though. I'm not gonna not eat them. Okay, so... Yeah, I can't figure out what it is that I'm doing wrong, but I cannot get the preferred NIC thing to just put NDI in that single network, right? Now, here's something cool that I should say about connecting networks to a machine. If you have an option like me where I've got two connections that go to the same switch, all right? I've got two fiber ports, essentially, that come over Thunderbolt. Two fiber connections that go to a 4250 and they go into the 1 gig port on the 4250. If you just plug them in straight and let them both get IP addresses from the same subnet, NDI will load balance on each NIC connection. It does this natively. And I think I said this last week. I think this is such a cool idea. Because in theory, you could buy a card that has 4 fiber ports and plug them all into multiple switches. Like if I had two 4250s or if I had a beefy 4250 that had multiple fiber connections, you could plug in multiple connections to that switch, and then you would have a load balancing ability across all of your NDI sources. Whoever came up with that at NDI, seriously, genius. Genius. And I suspect Dr. Cross had something to do with this, but he's at Grass Valley now and no longer at NDI. And so it's a great idea. Seriously, it was a great idea. And I'm very impressed because it makes life a lot easier. Okay, so that is Access Manager. And by the way, changes that you make in Access Manager, you have to hit OK and then they take place. So if you turn on a Discovery Server function, but Access Manager is still open and you haven't clicked OK yet, the change has not been written to the NDI library, as I understand it. And so take that for what it's worth. All right. NDI Bridge. This is not BirdDog Bridge. Okay, this bridge is known as a Dante Bridge in our realm. This NDI Bridge converts all of your NDI sources to HX. And this is really cool. If you want to, for example, have an output on a BirdDog Play, but you don't need it to be full, you just need it to be lightweight and light bandwidth. You could convert a full NDI source to HX right here by selecting local. Okay, local. and then you type in your bridge name, and you hit start. And all of your sources then will have whatever your bridge name is in front of it as the HX version of it. Generates a lot of work on your computer. And if you have a lot of sources like me, there's a lot of extra CPU usage. But it's great to have the ability to make HX sources and send them lightweight as long as the latency thing doesn't bother you. But HX, this works great. I've used this in multiple instances where I needed an HX source on a BirdDog decoder, like on a play, and I need to see if something's working or not. This converts it does convert, but it leaves your full source and it converts one to HX. So you have both. You have the option to do both. So if you open NDI Bridge, click on local, put in your group name, which is just public, right? Yoink. And then we put in our bridge name and we hit start. And by the way, there are some encoding settings. So we can change the output to full NDI. If you want to create HX sources and change them to full NDI for some reason, you could change it to high bandwidth. You could say don't transcode it, and it just turns it into it just repeats the source. This is helpful if you are looking to, Central does this a little bit better, I think. But anyways, if you just want it to generate the source again on your network, you could do it that way. But here I use it to encode HX. You can change it to EVC, which would then force your GPU, your NVIDIA GPU, to do the encoding. Or you could say H.264, and that's CPU encode. NDI 4 compatibility mode. If you are running a mixed network where you're still back in NDI 4, you could say, I need this to be NDI 4. And then this is the variable bit rate when it comes to HX. So this is HX3 and HX2, kind of, I think, in the same combination. I think HX2 is the low, and then I think 3 is mid, high, and ultra, but I'm guessing at that. I don't officially know from the company. But that is what what HX3 is a variable bit rate where you can change the latency and the bit rate accordingly. So if we have lower latency, we have higher bit rate, just like full NDI. And here it gives you a little scale as to what the deal is. Oh, that's cool. You can even manually change it. Oh, that's fun. I didn't even know that was a possibility. So I just say low because I don't want it to be taxing on my network. And then you hit start, and it literally locks the screen and gives you a stop button. But you should see it actively doing it. And now all of your NDI sources or your HX sources are now being generated on your computer. So the computer has to be on in order for those sources to be generated. You can also use this program to do basic NDI transport across the internet. And so this is what Bridge is, where you can say, okay, I want this computer to be the host, and you set up the bridge name. You give the public IP address, which is usually autofilled, but if you have multiple IP addresses or you have firewalls, you're going to have to do that manually. You want to set an encryption key and keep that to yourself, and then resolve the port and the public IP address for you. You can manually set it this way by unchecking that and changing these if you'd like. But if you want Bridge to do it yourself, when you hit start, this becomes the host. And then you can use this on other machines, right? You can use this on other machines to join that network. So we say join. We put in the same information that we had here. So write this stuff down or copy it or email it to yourself or whatever. And then join, and we want to put in server IP address. So that's the host's IP address. We want to put in the server port number that you're using, which gets autofilled unless you change it. And then your encryption key, which you set on the host side. Once you hit join, that connection should be made, and as I understand it, directly from external IP to external IP. Okay, it doesn't go through like an AWAS server or something like that. It's just a function here. And this will bring over the NDI video source to your network, to your host. Great. People say, well, why would I pay for BirdDog Cloud? Because cloud, you get metadata, you get control, you get all the Cloud Connect features, you get lower latency, you get faster response time, you get a bunch of stuff. Okay, so there's a reason why we do it the way that we do it. But if you just want to send a remote source, you have a camera set up on a tripod somewhere, you just need to see that NDI source, and somebody over there is going to control it. Boom. This is how you do it. This program's free. There you go. Okay, so that's Bridge. Okay. I'm not going to talk about Audio Direct, and I know a lot of people want me to, but I'm not going to talk about Audio Direct, mostly because this is for a specific function for VST3 plugins, and I don't have enough experience about that to talk about that confidently, but I will bring somebody on the show maybe that can. Okay. NDI Remote. So the whole point of this is to share or receive NDI sources over the web. And so I haven't played with this very much. I don't really, because again, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be using cloud because I have subscriptions to that. Excuse me. But you can invite people to send their basically their remote connections to you. So you can send invitations, invite and manage people to send you NDI sources. And then if you are getting sources, then you can follow these instructions here. It's pretty straightforward. It looks like you can, oh, that's fun. You can select the source that you want to use and then create a QR code on the video. Ooh, that's fun. Anyways, I need to play more with that because I don't have a ton of in-depth experience with this, because if I'm doing this sort of function, which this is just like I'm hosting a show, like vMix Caller, hosting a show, and I need your NDI source. Send you an invitation. You could accept the invitation, and it could come back. So I think I have that might have that backwards. You could invite somebody to connect to your connection, I believe, and then the received invitation is the one that would be receiving the NDI source. Don't quote me on that. I don't quite know. Router, or as they say in Europe, router. Router is really cool, and this was a fun function that I didn't know NDI had for a very long time. But this essentially is a switcher, okay? And it outputs an NDI source right here, destination, okay? So if you were to open up Studio Monitor, my PC just fired up its... All right, so yoink, and we're going to go here to router destination 1. And what it does is it generates an NDI output, and you can add sources here. So this used to be my P200 used to be my main camera, right? Well, there are a bunch of things that you can link. You right-click, you say configure, and you drop down the camera that you want to use. And then you can even rename it, change the background color, change the text color, make it bold, make it not, whatever you want to do. And this basically allows you to switch NDI sources fast and have the destination IP on a decoder or something like that. So if you're looking here in Studio Monitor, vMix Machine, router destination 1, right? But I could change that to like router destination 2, and then that's this one here. Well, that is showing, let's change this to like main 200, I guess. I don't know. Let's make sure this is configured correctly. Main 200 camera. There it is. Okay, pulls it up. So if I switch this now, vMix Machine, router 2, look, P200, okay? So the P200 is out of destination 1. On 1, though, I'm showing PF120. And it even gives me this little preview window. Oh, and also cool little pro tip here is if you hover over this, you can actually open this source in Studio Monitor. So if I click on, it's like a little window here. I don't know if you can see that, but anyways, I clicked on that, and I clicked on this, and now it says, oh, it's not the source, actually, it's the router destination. So I can pull up the router destination, and this is just a little proxy preview window. Can I change that? No, not at all. Little proxy preview window. Well, this is router destination 1, and as I showed you before, mains, you can switch between them, and it calls it. So if you don't have the budget for vMix or Wirecast or something like that, right? But you want to, check this out now. You want to produce a show and you got 3 cameras and a keyboard. You can run router, free. Okay, it's a free service. Run router and run web NDI webcam. And what you do is you say, I have a service like StreamYard or OBS or something like that, and I need a webcam to come into that service, or Teams. Okay, you want to do a presentation in Teams. Link all your NDI sources in router and output them to destination 1. Then use webcam to convert destination 1 NDI into a webcam and port that into the program that you're using. And now you've got a video switcher, right? You can click through your sources and it will switch them for you on the NDI source. And that way you can kind of produce a small show without needing to pay a bunch of money for a real video switcher, which takes time to set up, and it has great bells and whistles. vMix has its place in the world, and I promise you it's worth it. But maybe you're not there yet, man. Maybe you just want to see, is this NDI thing really going to work for me? Boom. NDI router is going to be the answer here, because what's going to happen is you'll be able to bring in all those sources into one router, and then you can output those in a single destination, and then you can link that destination to whatever it is, wherever you want to show that information. So again, webcam input, router. You basically do your own show just with that. Now you're not going to have the bells and whistles with the comments and the, and the sound effects and all that stuff that I have going on here. That's another show. If you just want to see if NDI can help you make better presentations on Teams, you have if you buy the cameras, the sources, you get everything else for free. And NDI Tools. Boom. Done. So cool stuff. Really useful. I think router is one of one of those unsung heroes in the world, because it's free and it enables you to basically produce a small show. I'm just thinking, if you're doing like basketball, for high schools, set up your cameras, bring them back to a PC, fire up router, fire up, the webcam app, and ship that stuff out to YouTube or something. I don't know. Like OBS is free. You use OBS if you want, or whatever. There's lots of options. Okay, excuse me. Hopefully that cough was muted. All right, there's a couple other things in here. NDI for After Effects. I actually don't have After Effects, and I don't have that plugin installed. So we have done work with Jake on some of that, and I'll have him back in. And same thing with Premiere Pro. I'm a Resolve guy, so there you go. And then NDI for VLC. I am using NDI for VLC. You run this little plugin, and it will open VLC, and it will enable you. And I should show you where this is, by the way. Let's get rid of this. Remove. Okay. Here is a little behind the scenes. Yes, you just saw a glitch in the matrix. Here's a little behind the scenes of my playlist that runs for my music that I play pre and post show. Okay. It's running out of VLC, and VLC is generating an NDI audio output. Where you change this is we can go over to, where is it here? Tools, Preferences. And when you click on that little button in NDI Tools, it'll open VLC. And then when you go to the Preferences option, it will open this little window, right? And in here, we click on Audio, Output Module, and down to the bottom, it will say NDI Audio Output. So we select that, and we can change it to Video Output, NDI Video Output. Okay, change it to that. Hit Save, close VLC, reopen VLC, and then check out Studio Monitor. Inside Studio Monitor, open this up. We go vMix Machine, because that's my program. Look, VLC output. And there is no video here, okay? But if I were to, I do have the meters in here. Strange that it's not showing the meters, because it's showing them on my screen over here. This would be my VLC video output. And let me just make sure I did that right. Yep. So that's my VLC video and audio output. And it would play music if I was listening to that actual source. Now, I have it listed as silent. Maybe that's the deal. So audio, yeah, silent mode. So if I were to go out, let's go out 1 through 4. Nope, that's not right. 1 and 2. Video, no, audio. Well, I can go with the K. Oh no. Sorry. I did that wrong. Audio. Cable output. I'm trying to demonstrate this for you where it would come in here. It should be playing out the actual effects channel. Store, where are we? Sound effects. Is this working?
Good news, everyone!
Yes, it is. So, maybe I need to restart Studio Monitor. Excuse me. Restart Studio Monitor. Let's give this another go. VLC. All right. Well, for some reason, it's not actually showing this. My apologies. I'm not too sure why that is. But you can bring those NDI sources into vMix or into your as an audio channel. So let's say we're doing multiple audio channels. You can bring an NDI audio purely. There is no video playing, right? There's no video playing in VLC. It's just the audio being run. Oh, and look, and it might be because this is paused. So if I play it, that might do it. Okay. So it is now definitely working. And there's the music. I don't know if you can hear that at all, but you can see the audio meters are going. So this is now an NDI audio source that is basically coming across my network as audio. So anybody could tune into this on my network and listen to the tunes. Now this playlist plays basically anytime this machine is on, with the exception of some NDI sources that I generate for other reasons, but just for testing reasons. But that NDI for VLC plugin is super useful. Now, a word of warning, my friends, and I'll wrap up with this for this segment. A word of warning. The NDI VLC output is not super stable or great. I wouldn't integrate this as a part of your regular production suite. If you want to play music over NDI, works great. I can advocate for that, okay? Works great. Seems to work very stable. I can run it for multiple hours. That's all good. I have had issues, though, playing video files. So you could play a movie, for example, that you created yourself and own the rights to, and generate an NDI stream with that video and put it on loop. I have noticed that the NDI feed freezes out of VLC after a couple of hours of showing that feed. And I use that function to show, to do testing, video testing, on some of the Bird Dog videos that we have here in the office, to send them to plays and screens and flex outs and whatever. I use that VLC function. It works, just not forever. And the first time I saw this done was in 2019, when the lead engineer at Bird Dog did that to generate our sign. They used VLC to generate our signage in at NAB. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. And I didn't really understand it until about a year and a half later, how it was that he was doing that. I just don't, the plugin seems to work great. I think that there's an issue with VLC and the video element of it long term. But the audio portion does not seem to be very taxing and seems to work pretty well. I just don't, I have a hard time with the consistent, and maybe my computer's going to sleep and that's freezing it, or maybe there's a power issue, or maybe I'm running out of memory. I don't know what it could be. I just can't get the video portion of it to work long for days on end. It works generally for a couple of hours, and then it kind of packs up. So there you go, everybody. There is a brief overview. That wasn't brief. There's an overview of the offerings of the NDI Tools toolkit, which I think continues to get better as time goes along. If you are in the NDI realm, you need to have NDI Tools on the computer that you use as a toolkit. And if you're training people to understand NDI, start with Studio Monitor and NDI Tools. Okay? That will give them a great grounding as to what's going on. Start with don't start showing them how they come into vMix right away and yada yada. Show them the basics. Here's a camera, and here's a little program we use to look at what the camera's generating. Okay, now we're going to take that source and input it into our switcher, and then you can build on that. But if you're not using Studio Monitor or NDI Tools in your NDI workflow, I strongly recommend you consider it, because it's a great set of tools, and also it's a really powerful set of tools. So, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Now, let me get back to the chat and see what we got going on over here. Good point in regards to selecting different firewall profiles for your individual NICs. Otherwise, traffic will also flow over. It's true. NDI Bridge in HX mode is the great way to test your network. If you're having issues with full frame NDI, try sending HX instead. Agreed. I have actually done this. I did this when I realized that I was having NDI flow control issues coming into this vMix machine. And I generated them all into HX and brought them in, and there was like no stuttering and no issues. And then I realized, oh, I'm maxing out my 1 gig port. So I added a second one. And guess what? Everything works great. Good stuff. Good stuff. So yes, HX, that little bridge HX tool, just from a troubleshooting standpoint, maybe, okay, so here's a great example, and I just kind of said it, but great example is you go to a customer site, they're having trouble with, they got their 5 bird dog cameras in their auditorium, and they're having stuttering or they're having issues. Run bridge, bring those 5 sources in HX. If they're super clean, and like remove the full sources. If they're all super clean, you got a bandwidth issue on your network. Okay? Because the cameras don't, as a general rule, if you have more than one camera, they typically don't exhibit if there's a problem with one of them, they don't exhibit the exact same issue. They will, if you're seeing the same issue on multiple devices, look for a common denominator, and typically that is network related. So, NDI over the internet? Have you send BirdDog Cloud? So yes, so NDI over the internet is mostly, so bridge in this instance is what I think you're referring to. This is purely the video signal as I understand it. It's purely just the NDI video. I don't think there's any metadata, no control, no tally, no bunch of other things. That's why cloud is so great, because it allows you to do a lot of that. But there is so much stuff on the cusp of BirdDog Cloud that, yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's an exciting time to be alive, my friends. Router must use a lot of the computer resources. When you had it open, your audio started popping and stopped as soon as you closed it. Oh, very interesting, Albert. Thank you for the heads up. Yes, we had issues with my audio popping in a previous show. That's very interesting. Hi. Hey, what's going on? Is it Aaron or Arun? Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate that. Always helpful to have folks over on the YouTubes. And hey, while you're here, hit that subscribe button on birddogjohn.tv. Everything I do here on the sports show shows up on that channel at least. So never miss a moment with this riveting content from Bird Dog John. NDI Bridge does support PTZ controls over WAN. Did it a couple of weeks ago during a show. Oh, how'd that go? I would be very interested to know more information about that, because it's always fun to find out what is. I didn't realize that they were doing PTZ control, but then again, I don't use it, so that's why I wouldn't know. What's the story there? Okay. All right, let's see here. It looks like we got a ticket number in the chat. So I'm going to just read this ticket number briefly and see what's going on. Okay, you submitted this 1 hour ago, so I do want to give my guys a chance to answer this one for you. Let me see here real quick. Okay, so you have a Model B keyboard, FYI. Okay. As per original request and picture, we can't check the firmware. So does the keyboard turn on? Does it power on? There's not a whole lot here on the ticket, but I'm happy to go down this road. So from what I can see on the ticket so far, it's basically we're having trouble finding out which firmware you have. So if that's the case, the first place you find that is on the keyboard, power it up, click on setup, enter the password, which is all zeros if it's just in default. Then go to camera settings and go down to model info. And on model info, it'll tell you firmware version of the baseboard. Okay, that's the first thing. Okay, so it says yes on the screen, keyboard initializing. Is it doing anything else other than that? Is it just keyboard initializing the whole time? If that's the case, get a little pin and hold the factory reset button, which is on the top next to the power button, the silver power button. Hold that factory reset button. I don't know if it's while you power it on. I think it is, but you try it both ways. Either while you power it on or power it on and then hold the factory reset button, one way or the other. I think your caps lock is on as well, because everything you're saying is coming across as shouty. Okay, when you held the factory reset button, did it say factory reset on the screen? Because that's how you know it actually went through. because that will be the next piece to find that out. Alrighty. So it did not say factory reset. So, okay, so that didn't happen. So, yeah, the way that I would start this one, it's so keyboard initializing can be because of one of two things. First, it can be that there's a mismatch in the MICU baseboard, like the wrong baseboard has been put on the keyboard. So with a Model B keyboard, you're going to need to do a MICU update with a USB stick. I would check out, I've done a video on how to format the USB stick, but I think that there's also a video on the knowledge database about updating the keyboard. So check that out. And I would format the USB stick correctly, because if you don't format it correctly, then it has a tendency to corrupt the process, and so that's not good. So check out the formatting thing. That's super important. Put the Model B keyboard firmware on it and do the LTS version first. So do 214, and there is a keyboard.bin file. That's the file that you want to put on the USB to do the update. Follow the update instructions, because it does sound like the keyboard initializing means that, and if it's just staying that way, then it's not booting the keyboard at all from the base level, not even the NDI chip, but just the base level of the keyboard's not booting at all. So it sounds like something's happened with the boot sequence. Either it got corrupted or the wrong MICU got put on it or something like that. And then follow the instructions in the manual for the Model B keyboard. Okay. And then change, once that's done, the main menu should appear, like it should do, the keyboard initializing thing should stop, and you should be able to get to the main menu. Once you get to the main menu, then we need to figure out where it is on the network, which is could be another thing. But if you're using a proper NDI network, your DHCP should issue an IP address, and you can go to the IP configuration screen inside the keyboard settings and find out what the IP is. Now, if that reads back 100, doesn't necessarily mean that there's a networking issue. It could mean that the firmware on the NDI chip and the firmware on the baseboard are mismatched. So you have to get into it locally. That's generally how that goes. So initially, I would reattempt the USB baseboard, which is type B, but make sure that you format the USB stick correctly, because that's mission critical, way more than we probably say in the manual. So that would be a good place to start. And then you can let our guys know inside the ticketing system, your ticket 31948. That would be good to kind of get us off into the right position to helping you sort that out. All right. Live support and spicy chips with Bird Dog John. What's going on, Steven? Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate that. And we've been at this for an hour and 53 minutes. And what's crazy is I started late. The show started right at 11. So that's almost pretty much accurate for how long, minus 5 minutes. But yeah, I've been talking for 2 hours. So whoops-a-daisy. Sorry about that, everybody. But I'm very impressed that there's so many of you still hanging around. So there you go. Good for you. I love this show. I don't know if I've said this before, but I love hanging out with you guys. This is definitely a highlight of my week. Twice a week we get to hang out, chat about NDI stuff, talk about tickets, talk about troubleshooting stuff. But today we went over the NDI toolkit, and I can't advocate enough. You need to have that on your machine, your go-to NDI machine, and that is a great set of tools that can help you with that. So for sure, check that out. Okay. Now, we had a long weekend. So for those of you in the States, I don't know, I've always wondered this. Is it Happy Memorial Day? That seems like a paradox to me, right? Anybody else? So I hope you have had a pleasant holiday break, and it's a shame that we have to have a Memorial Day, but thank goodness the servicemen and women have gone ahead of us to provide us the country that we have. But happy sad day. Yes, this is probably accurate. Happy mourning day. It's like, no, that doesn't work. But anyways, we did have a day off yesterday, and hopefully that was a chance for you to rest and recover. I know I took some time. We had some friends over, had a good visit with them, did the classic burgers and hot dogs, to which the kids ate part of the bread and very little of the hot dogs. But anyways, we made it through, and now we are happy to get back to work. 4-day week. My kids are done school, which is bizarre. And so my wife is finishing up at school. She's got my daughter with her, and then my son is still at preschool, so he'll be finishing up this week. But then they're out for the summer, which is so crazy that's already here. But that happens, and that happens quickly. So I'm the only person at my workplace, a seminary in New Jersey, who deals with NDI or video. So this show is a replacement for having a team of folks around me who do this. So I appreciate it. Well, that's very kind. Wow. What a compliment. That's huge. Well done. So that was one of the pieces that we had found early on, was that there were NDI guys out in the realm that were basically specialists, but they were just doing it themselves, right? And that was part of the goal, was, look, let's bring these individual guys that are all spread out around the world, all promoting NDI, but all troubleshooting NDI and doing all this. Let's bring them all into the same place and give them a place to hang out and chat and talk. And we've had days where folks are frustrated and they express their frustrations, and then we've had days where we it's exciting because we get to announce new things, or we get to show new products, or we get to talk about innovation and all that. So it's always really cool to bring folks together. Ouch, this is uncomfortable. It's always fun to bring folks together, and especially guys that are doing similar things to us, and I'm happy to facilitate that conversation. So I'm glad that you have found a home here on the Bird Dog Support YouTube page. Always good to have folks around. Okay. Well, I hope you've had a great break. We've got a short week. I will be back on Thursday. That is the plan, barring no major changes or illnesses come up. We should be back on Thursday. I'm trying to figure out what it is that I want to talk about on Thursday, other than the return of spicy ramen. So giddy up. I'm really excited about that. I've got that out in my office right now. So it is here. There's no waiting on it. It's no is Amazon going to deliver? None of that. It's here. It's ready to roll. So I'm pretty excited that we're going to go back to that realm for a few days. Looking forward to trying that out. So come back on Thursday if you just want to see me sweat it up a little bit while eating spicy food. Today's food was excellent. Shout out to the homemade salsa, and to Balu for providing us with some enchilada Pringles, which I've saved some for the office. So, I've saved a few for the office, so they can partake and see what they think. Hopefully it doesn't make me choke. But all good. Thank you everybody for stopping by. Super appreciate it. Hopefully you have found today's discussion useful, and I will try and cut up that NDI Tools section and make that available as an individual show, so you don't have to watch 2 hours now of Bird Dog John live show, but you can just check out that information. Easy peasy. So, hey, awesome stream. Thanks, Timothy. Appreciate that. Thanks for coming by today. Welcome to come back anytime you can. Okay, I am going to jump over to VMix. Take care of yourselves, everybody. I really appreciate you. Thank you for spending some time with us today, and I hope that you will join us again on a future show, Tuesday, Thursdays, 11 to 12 at least, right here in the Eastern Time Zone in Auburn Hills, Michigan, on birddogjohn.tv. But take care of yourselves out there, folks. Take care of each other. Super important these days. And we will see you the next time around. Cheers. Have a great start to the week. Bye, guys.
I need his hat.